We have a responsibility and an obligation to try to keep open the freedom of information flowing between countries, between individuals. And if you don't want to have your government watching all of your data flows, we're going to talk about some of the things that you could do.
Hey everyone, David Bombal back with Occupy the Web. Occupy the Web, welcome.
Thanks, David. It's always good to be back on your show.
For people who haven't seen our previous videos, he's the author of Linux Basics for Hackers, fantastic book if you want to learn Linux from a hacker's point of view and getting started becoming a master hacker. Occupy the Web gave us a list of his top hacking books in a previous video. If you're interested in seeing the books that he recommends, not just his own books, but other great hacking books, then use the link below. So, Occupy the Web, you have got a really interesting topic for us to talk about today. Take it away.
All right. Thanks, David. So what we're talking about today, and I think it has some relevance to the world that we live in right now, is what happens. Well, let's back up a little bit and say that one of the things that we talked about in earlier videos is that my definition of a white hat hackers is somewhat different and maybe expanded from the traditional textbook definition of a white hat hacker. And one of those things that are in my definition of a white hat hacker is that because we are a very small and special group, we have a responsibility and an obligation to try to keep open the freedom of information flowing between countries, between individuals. And in the world that we live in now, there's a lot of oppressive governments who are trying to keep information from flowing out. For instance, such Iran right now. Iran is faced with this with protests from the common people, from the population, who are very unhappy with the government, particularly after the slaughtering of Masa Amini. And there made it very difficult for people to exchange information. But that applies to lots of countries around the world, whether it be North Korea, Russia, even in what we think of as the free Western countries, there's always the intelligence agencies are always monitoring the flow of data in and out of the country. For instance, in the US, it's the NSA. The NSA basically is looking at everything. And if you don't want to have your government, watching all of your data flows and information flows, we're going to talk about some of the things that you could do. Right? And one of the things that we can do as white hat hackers to be able to get the information out is to use steganography. And that may be a new term for some people, but what steganography is simply putting data into another channel, like a photograph, like a video, with like an audio file. So it looks like something else, like a graphic file, looks like an audio file, but when the receiver gets the file, they then can open it up and find the information there. So somebody who's watching the flow from your IP address or from your computer sees only some graphic files going out. But really, there's a secret message hidden inside of that, right, that they can't see. And this is part of cryptography. It's a segment of cryptography.
Like secret messages, not secret. That's the brilliant part. Messages that anyone can see, but no one knows what they mean unless you have the key.
Where we can go ahead and embed messages into audio files, into graphics files. And so that's what we're going to do today. Some of you who are Mr. Robot fans, which you know, of course, that I am, can remember that Elliot took all of his data and put it into audio files and then copied them onto DVDs and collected them that way. He was doing that because he was concerned about the data being captured by somebody when law enforcement came along, and they would see his data and know exactly what he was up to. So he put all the data onto CDs inside of music files. So that's what we're going to do first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about steganography and talk about how to embed within graphic files. So on Mr. Robot, we see Elliot, who is trying to hide his data into files. He uses a tool there called Deep Sound. So you can download deep sound. Yeah, it's at jpinsoft.net. jpinsoft.net. It's free. They ask for a donation. But basically, here's how it works. We're going to hide inside some audio and click here. So we're going to open some carrier files. I've got some audio files on a thumb drive here. Here's a audio book about Catherine the Great. Okay, those of you who are familiar with Russian history recognize who she is. She's probably the last great Tsarina of Russia, reigned during the period of the American Revolution. She got to the top of Russia by essentially jailing her husband, who was kind of a mentally feeble guy, and so was not fit to be the Tsar. And she put him in a prison and took over the reins of Russia, and ended up being a fairly good ruler compared to some of her predecessors and successors. All right, this is still taking a while. So it's trying to read the whole file.
Does it make sense to use bigger files? Because if you use a small audio file and you attach a big file, it's going to look strange, right?
It's going to change the size of the file, but only slightly.
Okay.
All right. So what happens? It's kind of it's a good question. So what happens in steganography is what's called least significant bit. What's happening? It finished up reading it all. What it's doing is it's really not changing the size of the file at all. What it's doing is it's changing the least significant bit. So here's the least significant bit steganography. All right, so here's the original image. And what's happening is that they're changing, for instance, in the audio file or in a graphics file, they're changing the bit that's going to have the least amount of information. So, for instance, if we're talking about a graphics file, it'll change the color just slightly. So in most systems now, we have 16-bit color, right? Or 24-bit color. 24-bit color is like 16.7 million colors, right? That's a lot of gradation. And so if you take a pixel and change its color by the least significant bit, meaning just by a tiny shade of those 16.7 million shades, no eye is going to detect it. But we change that single bit, and then we know what bits have been changed, and we can come back and reverse them and find the message from there. So this is least significant bit cryptography. It's probably the most common type of cryptography, but there's many different types. So here we have, this is Robert Massey's Catherine the Great. If you're interested in Russian history, this is a great book about Catherine the Great. Maybe helps to understand better what's taking place in Russia now. So then we want to go ahead and add a secret file. I think I have some secret files here. Let's see what I have. Oh yeah, I have a top secret document. Imagine that. Here goes our top secret document in there. Now, I also want to point out that here I'm embedding a top secret document that is in a Word format. So if I were in Iran or some repressive country with a repressive government, don't put in a Word file, all right? Use a text editor, use OpenOffice, because the Word documents actually contain an identifier, what's called the GUID of your system. So if somebody intercepts and gets a hold of this Word document, they can tell what machine actually created it. And that's, that evidence is hard to dispute. It contains the GUID of your system. And that's something that Microsoft did.
Use a Notepad or Vim or something, right?
Yeah, if you're using Linux, there's a number of text editors in Linux, and we'll look at the same thing in Linux in a little bit. If you're using a Windows system, use OpenOffice, right? Or Notepad, something that is not a Microsoft Office product. All of the Microsoft Office products embed the GUID, the global unique identifier is what it's called, GUID, of your system. You don't want that. But for demonstration purposes, I just put a top secret document, docx, in there. So now that we've gone ahead and got both the audio file and the secret document, we're going to go ahead and encode that secret document. And we go here, and then we have to click encrypt secret files with AES 256. Those of you who are familiar with cryptography recognize that as one of the strongest algorithms. It's used throughout our industry. So we're going to go ahead and just put in password. We're going to put in Hackers Arise as my password. And then we're going to encode the secret files with the password. It's successfully been created. And now here's the file. We've embedded this top secret document inside of the audio file. And in Mr. Robot, what happens is that he then takes these audio files and puts them into DVDs and stores them that way. Let's let it do its thing here. There it is. Okay, we got it. We've now embedded our top secret document inside. Oops, I shouldn't have clicked on it again. Here's a kind of a simple graphic of what steganography is. So we have a cover file. In this case, with the Deep Sound, the cover file is the audio file, the secret message. It goes inside of a steganographic encoder, right, with a key, which in this case, we used Hackers Arise. You take this stego object, send it out through a communication channel. If you're trying to get past a government or what have you, you can send that. It looks like normal traffic. You send it out as an attachment, say, to an email to somebody who is outside, and it just, here's my family home, or here's my cousin. I'm going to go out, and hopefully nobody detects it. And then we have a decoder which requires the password, and then secret message comes out with the password. Okay, in this case, it's our top secret document. All right, let's see if we can just go drag and drop this one in here. All right, so we've dragged and dropped the file that has the secret message in it, okay? And now we need to go ahead and give it the password, all right? So what we've done is we've taken this audio file and we've sent it out, okay, to whoever we have to send it out, getting it past the sensors, and then they have to know what the password is, and when they do have the right password, hopefully I remember the password, and there it is. There's our top secret document that we've extracted now from the audio file. So it went out as an audio file, got past the sensors, the receiver gets the file, and then is able to extract the top secret document from the audio file. And it looks to the sensors, to the NSA, to other intelligence agencies, it looks like a standard audio file. And you could obviously use some traditional music or music that's very popular, and you want to send it out to a friend and embed the documents inside of it to get past the sensors. Now, the folks that are monitoring the communication know that steganography exists. But the question is that to be able to extract the data, they need to know the password. They may try to block it, but without knowing the password, just like many other encryption algorithms, you need to know the password to be able to access it. So they may block it. Now, that's why you should probably send it out, just one at a time. You can see here that the file actually became significantly larger, okay, between the original and the embedded file. That might be a clue to somebody that this may have more in it than it actually does. So that's one thing you have to be careful of, is probably dependent upon the size of the message, you have to use a file that's going to be large enough to be able to encompass it. And that's essentially what we're doing. We're embedding it in this file. Now, this can also be done with graphic files. So let's take a look at graphic files, and let's use our Kali Linux. In Kali, there's an application called Stegosuite that we can go ahead and download it and go sudo, okay, apt install. You can see it there, install Stegosuite. It's in the Kali repository, so you should be able to download it. I've downloaded it previous to coming to class today. So let's go ahead and open it up. All right, let's go ahead and, there we go. Let's go to Stegosuite, okay? And you can see that it's a Java application, so it's going to be able to work in just about any environment. So you can see here's the help screen. Basically, the commands are going to be help, GUI, embed, extract, and capacity. So Stegosuite's got, let's go ahead and just do the help -h. And that's basically, we got the same help screen. There's not much more than that. So what we need to do is that we can go ahead and try to embed. Let's go ahead and embed. I'm going to up arrow until I get the commands. Stegosuite embed. All right. So if we go ahead and use the help before embed, it'll give us the help screen for that command. Let's go ahead and look at it. All right. So here's our Stegosuite embed. All right. And then the message, and then the output path, and then the file, and then the key. All right. So basically what we need to do this is we just need to go, let's get some graphic images from the same, I got on the same thumb drive. See if I can just drag and drop them there. There's Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot. All right. So we're going to embed in Mr. Robot. So we're going to embed, and you see here's the example here. Embed, then the secret key. And the secret key is going to be, of course, Hackers Arise. All right, that's going to be our secret key. -M is going to be my secret message. And so it's help.
No, you need to write, you need to buy my courses now. Right now.
No, that would be too
salesy.
Too salesy, yeah. So I'm stuck inside a graphic image and can't find my way out. Okay, that's the message I want in there. And then the path to the image file. So it's going to be under, and so then the last thing we got to do is put the path to the image. And here's our file right here, the Mr. Robot. And so it's going to be, should be at home, Kali, desktop. And then it's going to be Mr. Robot. I think I'm going to put that in quotation marks because there's some spaces in the name of that file. All right, so it's going to be all lowercase, Mr. Robot at computer. There we go. So see, it's going to be basically Stegosuite, call the application, embed versus extract. Okay, to take the message out, we have to extract the password we're going to use, the message that we're embedding inside of the file, or inside, in this case, a picture, and then let's see what happens. There, yes. And then I think that's a PNG file. Yes, a JPEG file, actually. So let's see if we've got it correct. Let's go ahead and run it. Image does not exist. It may be let's try JPEG. Oh, shoot. I'm going to go ahead and Control C out of that. Let's try up arrow that. JPEG. All right. Currently, only these files are supported. It's not going to. Oh, shoot. It's a JPEG, but I got another one. I got another one here. Let's just use this one. All right. Let's go ahead and move it to my desktop. There it is. All right. Let's run it again, except with this file. Let's go. And it's going to be .jpeg. Got to get rid of that quotation mark. Got to get rid of all of that. Mr. Robot JPEG. That's what it's called. Okay, let me look at it, and then let's. Also, we have to have what's the switch for the input? No, there isn't a switch for the input. Okay, so let's try this and see what happens. There we go. Finally. Okay, so we've gone ahead and embedded it into the Mr. Robot picture. All right, so now we have two of them here. And now we can extract. Go back. Let's just go ahead and Control C. And let's go Stegosuite. Okay, and then we're going to go extract. All right. Let's go back to let's just go to the help screen for extracts so we can all take a look at that. Okay, so here we go. Here's the example. Extract the secret key and then the path to the image. All right, so all we got to do then is to extract, and then in this case, the secret key is Hackers Arise, and then the path to our image, which is going to be, by the way, what is, let's take a look at, that's what it is, _embed. Right, so we got to get the new name. So it's going to be home, Kali, desktop, Mr. Robot, and then _embed. That's how it changed the name, okay? And it's going to be a JPEG. Right? Still a JPEG. Close the quotation mark. And so now, if we got it, no, we don't have one typo there. We have the right here. Let's get rid of that. All right. Let's see. We've got extract the key or the password is Hackers Arise. And then we have the path to the embedded image. You can see it right here. It changed the name from Mr. Robot. Okay, over here. See, it's Mr. Robot JPEG. Here it's Mr. Robot embed. We have it here. Let's go ahead. If I've typed everything correctly, we should be able to extract the message that's hidden inside of this picture. There it is, extracted message. Help, I'm stuck inside of a graphic image and can't find my way out. So these are two ways that we can go ahead and send information out without being detected by repressive government censors who don't want a free flow of information. So this is steganography. Deep Sound is using a audio file. Stegosuite can use a graphic file. Not only can we embed just a simple message like this, but we can embed an entire file. So let's go back to our.
Sorry, well, how big are what's the difference between the size of those files?
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the size. All right, here's 5.7 kilobytes, and here is 7.9. But it's a very small message. Right? It's a very small message. So it was increased it by just a couple of kilobytes, 2.5 kilobytes or 2 kilobytes, 2.2 kilobytes. But let's go back and take a look at our help screen for extract, or I'm sorry, embed. Let's go help embed. And you can see here that we can embed an entire file. So there we just sent a short message embedded inside the picture. But if we want to embed an entire file, we can go ahead and do that. It's going to impact the size of the file. But there's a big differences between the size of graphic files and, for that matter, audio files. That's usually not going to be a clue to somebody on the outside, the size of the file. And then if they were to detect it, they still would need the password. So I would recommend using a complex password that is going to take somebody years to be able to crack. And so this is a simple way to be able to get your information out, whether it be Iran or Russia or North Korea or the US or Great Britain, if you want to get your information out without being detected by censors, the intelligence agencies that may be trying to keep the free flow of information from getting out to others around the world. All right, so that's the way to get it out. Then the next question we have to address is, what do we do with the information that's on our system now? So we've gone ahead and embedded a message into this graphic file, or we've put a file inside of the graphic file or the audio file. We need to get rid of the information. We need to get rid of the evidence. And as we know, a file that's deleted is not gone. What happens when you delete a file is that it goes ahead and just takes the pointer off it so that it can be overwritten. All right, so it can be overwritten. So until it gets overwritten, the file is still available for reading by somebody with forensic skills. So one of the things that we do in our forensics class at Hackers Arise, which we have coming up, digital forensics in January and advanced digital forensics coming in February. So what we do in that class is I show you how to go ahead and recover deleted files. And sometimes you can actually even recover files that are overwritten, or at least parts of the file. So if you're concerned about your file being recovered by somebody that shouldn't have access to your system, or you don't want to have access, you need to get rid of it, right? You can't just delete it. So we could go ahead and delete these graphic files here, or the file that had the message, but it would still be recoverable. So what we do is that we have a command in Linux called shred. And let's go shred-h. It needs shred.help. This is the shred command. It says overwrite the specified files repeatedly in order to make it harder for a very expensive hardware program to recover the data. So it's important to note here that it says in order to make it harder. So it's almost impossible to remove a file if somebody has the hard drive and has the equipment and has the resources to recover the file. So what we can do is make it very, very difficult. It's kind of like security in general, right? We try to make it harder for the attackers to be able to get into our network and into our systems, but in reality, it's almost impossible to be totally secure. Same applies here. What we want to do is make it very, very difficult. And as long as you've only deleted the file, it's still available for relatively easy recovery. What we can do, though, is that we can go ahead and shred it. And shredding it allows us to write over it many times, all right? And by doing so, it makes it really, really hard to recover. Now, if these are top secret national security issues and you have somebody like the NSA on your trail, they probably still can recover it, but it's going to cost them a lot of money and a lot of time to do that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and shred this. And let's go shred. And let's see, we want to go -F for force. Here we can see the switches up above here. N is the number of iterations. All right, the default, if you don't put anything in, defaults to 3. And let's see, we just need to go ahead, give it a number of iterations and then the file name, I believe. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's go -N, 10 iterations, and then the name of the file. Okay, so we're going to have to go ahead and use that quotation marks again. Home, I should have used a file that didn't have any gaps in it, but home Cali and desktop. Let's see, it's Mr. Robot embed, if I remember correctly. Let's take a look over here. Yeah, Mr. Robot embed JPEG, and let's see if we can go ahead and shred that. Okay, that was very quick. It's been shredded. Cannot be displayed because it contains errors. The other way to check to see what's happened. Okay, so I went ahead and double clicked on it. You can't display it. You have to go ahead and say, use a cat command on it. So let's go ahead and you can see what's happened to that file. Copy, paste. That's what the file looks like now. It's been totally shredded. Basically, it's an overwrite of 10 times. We overwritten it 10 times with random information, and it's no longer a graphics file, and the information has been overwritten. So that's one of the things that you can do. There's another tool that's a utility that's built into most Linux systems, and certainly is built into Kali, is to use a tool called Bleachbit, and it's also in the repository. Go apt. It has a kind of a GUI that makes it easy to go ahead and find the data that you want to go ahead and overwrite. So we're going to go ahead and install Bleachbit. Okay, so then we can just go Bleachbit. Once it's installed, you get a nice little GUI like this. Now, Bleachbit became famous a few years ago because when I guess this is 2016, when Hillary Clinton, who was a candidate for the U.S. presidency, had used an outside mail server. All right, so she was using a mail server that was not owned by the government, which is a requirement that she was using at the State Department, actually, before she was running for president. And so she had an SMTP server outside of the reach of the government, a private SMTP server. And so she was then, and that basically is illegal. She was asked to go ahead and provide those emails, okay, they could read all her emails, because as a government employee, her emails belong to the government, just like any presidents or any person who worked for the government. Before she turned them over, her IT people used Bleachbit to be able to remove all of the email. This is what they use. So this is why it became relatively famous. It's a good tool. It's free as well. It's in the repository. You can go ahead and select whatever data you want to go ahead and clean. It actually allows you to go ahead and delete package lists. So we can go ahead and clean obsolete files, auto remove our temporary files, our thumbnails, any Vim swap files. So it's an excellent tool. Go into Firefox and remove passwords or site preferences, URL history. So it's easy to use. All you got to do is click on what you want to remove and then go clean, and away it goes. I'm not going to go ahead and do that here. I don't want to remove anything. You can also get rid of, say, the clipboard, cache, any free disk space, what have you. Excellent tool for being able to remove evidence from your system it overwrites the files, similar to Shred did, but it's more automated that you can go ahead and, without even knowing where the files are at, you can go ahead and have Bleachbit find them and go ahead and overwrite them. Another excellent tool for covering up evidence. It's also available for Windows, I think, and Mac, both. So that's where we can overwrite our evidence and make it really, really difficult for anybody to recover our data. Now, it's not impossible, as I said, but it makes it very, very difficult. And usually that's all you need, is making it very, very difficult. So somebody would look at this system, and this is what they would see, okay, as that file, as that graphic file, and it doesn't look like there's anything there. So they would, in many cases, simply overlook this file. But if they knew and they had the resources and the tools, then it is conceivable and possible to recover the file, because we're talking about magnetic files. And even after you overwrite a file, there is a magnetic shadow that still exists, but it requires a lot of work to be able to recover that. And only law enforcement and national security agencies have the capability to recover those files.
This is great. I appreciate you sharing, Occupy the Web. Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think that's it. I think these are two excellent ways that one can go ahead and disseminate the key information that needs to be sent out. If you're working in an environment where you have a repressive government who's spying on you and trying to keep the information from flowing out, and then you need to be able to then shred or overwrite the data so that it's not recoverable in the case that your machine gets into the wrong hands.